This one, obviously, when it comes to angst, is a lot more personal for you. I know it really dove into a terrible relationship that you had as a teenager.
Mhm.
Is that part of the reason it took so long to kind of from 2021 to now 2025 coming out, or tell us about that?
Maybe. Well, a part of the problem was I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I from 2014 to probably about 2017 or so, I was learning a lot. I was doing writing classes and just absorbing as much as I could about how to write, and I was practicing with short stories and whatnot. And then I don't know, I just really kind of settled into horror, and so there wasn't room for this story because it wasn't a horror story that I wrote in 2014. So, and I just figured that was my practice novel, so I left it off to the side, and it was my purge of all my childhood trauma went into all that. So I didn't think anything of it until about 2020, 2021, and it wasn't COVID that triggered me. It was a very strange event. I saw somebody out in public, saw a very familiar face, but it wasn't him. It looked so much like the guy who had caused so much harm in my teen years. So much so that I had a physical reaction. Like
Wow.
my I was sweating. My heart was racing, and I knew it couldn't be him. He was young. He was like it was not him. But just seeing that face that looked so familiar triggered a physical response, and I do still have, even to this day, even after being in a healthy relationship for 25 years, I still have physical responses to certain triggers, and that's what happened in 2020, 2021. I realized, like, I'm still living with this. And I'm still living with this, and it's crazy because I thought it was okay. And it kind of annoyed me that a lot of people seem to think that abuse victims, once if they've if they're fortunate enough to escape
Yeah.
the abuser, that they're okay after that. That everything's fine. They go on and they live their lives. And for the most part, that was true for me. But there's still a little bit of that stuck with me forever. It's never going to go away.
I've often heard psychologists and certainly people far smarter than I talking about trauma and the complex PTSD, which is very much like a car crash where you have this thing seared right into your memory, and it really does become part of your wiring. It tries to hide from you, I guess, to protect you, but then, like you said, once in a while something like that pops up, like, you know fuck, I thought that was back, I thought that was gone.
Yeah.
What
you
the
know,
hell?
it's insane what our brains do to protect us, and
Hmm.
then how they remind us that of yeah, it's instinctive. It's very much instinctive because I can be with someone I know and trust very well, and if I don't know, I'm touched a certain way or the voice raises to a certain pitch, like immediately I shut down a little inside, just a little bit, and then I have to remind myself it's fine. But like, there's something instinctive that happens, some kind of protection barrier that goes up. Um, yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to touch on with Bloodstains by Gaslight, is that the trauma never goes away.
You definitely touched on the way that
Mhm.
uh, so when you started writing this in 2021, how long did it take for you to get something this personal out and essentially turn this horrible source of the trauma into a blood-sucking creature of the night? Which would seem like a lot of fun, and you're like, this son of a bitch is gonna get it. But at the same time, again, you're having to go through all the reasons he's gonna get it. So what was that like for you?
So the with Bloodstains by Gaslight, it was easier than it was with that first book I wrote back in 2014. I think that was my trauma vomit. Yeah. I was just getting it all out, and it took like almost a year. I cried every day for a year while I wrote it. And so when I did Bloodstains by Gaslight, I was older. I was coming at it from a more mature and sensible angle and a more mentally stable angle. And how long, I don't remember how long it took to write. Most novels for me take, a few months. Like some of them might take upward of like 8 months, depending on, I'm not sure. I don't remember how long it took me to write this one. It was probably something like 6 to 8 months, I'm guessing. But that's just for that first draft. I kept stopping because I felt like I wasn't doing it right. But I got some advice from people at cons, and they just told me to just fucking go for it. so I did. So I just went in and I said, okay, I'm just gonna write it. I'm gonna write it the way I see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be such a weird feeling because obviously you're writing for an audience. You want it to be good and entertaining and well received so that people want to read more of you and enjoy that book and talk about it. But at the same time, you also want to do, the personal aspect of it to you justice. Did you find that was a bit of a balance when, writing for you versus the audience, or are you one of many that's like, I'm just going to write the book for me and then hopefully people come along for the ride? Or what was your thought process in that, if there was much? Or as that goes?
I always kind of keep the audience in mind just a little bit, just for the sake of storytelling, not so much what people want to see or what they want to read. Sure. But just as for a purpose of storytelling, whether or not it's got a good, arc, whether or not it's got, good pacing and whatnot. And so I do keep the reader in mind for that. But otherwise I just I kind of wrote it for me. I knew I wanted to write the abuse story. I knew that was a story I had to get out there. It was a story worth telling, because everybody's story is different. So I figured I'd just tell this one story. But I knew I wanted it to be horror, and I wanted it to be paranormal a little bit. So I figured, what better villain other than a vampire to signify an abuser?